Hello everybody, time for a quick tutorial talking about doors. Something that's really bothered me for a long time is I couldn't figure out a good way of making them. In the previous tutorials about animation, I've shown you how you can hook in animation to a socket interactor. So having a door, an animated door open and close when something is socketed or interacted with in some way. What I'd like to show you here is how to lever or get some leverage out of the value of levers to turn them into doors. So what we've got here is an example of a lever. Levers does exactly what it says on the tin. You can rotate the angle of it, and it dawned on me very quickly that a lever, well, actually works a little bit like a door. So let me show you what we're going to make, and then we're going to build one together.
So this will be a dynamic system. Again, like I've shown you before, you've got joysticks which work on different axes and levers which work like that. And we're going to take this lever and turn it into a door that will work like this. Where you'll be able to select the door and move it and move it and move it. And it will go towards a certain angle. So you can see here this door has 180 degrees rotation, so from there to there. However, levers, depending on how far they've got across their axis, will snap back to their angles, which may not be desirable behaviour, but the choice is yours. We're going to have a look over here at this door, which is a little bit better looking. You can see that this has got a limit on its angle to 90 degrees, and that feels quite a bit nicer. So what I'm going to show you here is that doors that will snap to 90 degrees, or to, well, whatever angle it is that you've set for them. It is a little clunky, and it's far from a perfect solution, but it's an option. So you can see this is proving a little bit troublesome. But you can see 9 times out of 10 it works. So,
to create a door, we're going to utilize an existing XRI example, which is the lever. So if I go into the XRI examples folder and in UI 3D and then in prefabs, you'll find that we've got a bunch of the prefabs. If you haven't played with these before, watch my starting tutorials. They're exceptionally useful tools. We're going to take a lever, and the first thing that we'll notice about the lever is we're going to use a scale tool, make it a bit larger, and rotate it on its side. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm going to move it up. Again, notice I'm just using the keyboard shortcuts for this, but you've got move, rotate, and scale up here. What you'll also notice about the lever, if I try and change the maximum and minimum angles of the door, well, of the lever, I'm going to change that instead to be 90 degrees, or sorry, 0 degrees, let's say, and the minimum angle is going to be perhaps minus 90 degrees. We want this to open all the way there. Just to show you that out of the box, the way this lever works, it's got a visuals child, which contains the lever plate, which is this element here on the left, which contains the lever stick, which is this part here with a collider on it. If I try and walk through that, it's already got behaviours
just like a door. I shouldn't be able to walk through it. I should be able to pull that out. So you'll notice I can't walk over it. I may get some strange behaviour if I try and step over it, but if I grab the lever, you'll see that it can, hopefully, move from there to there 90 degrees, and you saw that twitchy behaviour because it's just a capsule. So what we're going to do is use that as our base for our door.
So our lever contains an XR lever component, and it contains a link to the handle, which we can set up a little bit later on. But basically what we're going to do here is ultimately hide things like the mesh renderer and the mesh renderer on both of those components, but we're going to do that a little bit later on. We're just going to hook into these existing bits. So first thing we're going to find, well, if you've just got a door, you don't really need to worry about the first bit, but in my example here, I've got the door frame, which is the outer edge, and the door itself. You may have a similar thing, or it may be building this from scratch. Like you saw over here, this is just a door with a child being the pivot point. I've already got a door asset, which is here. So if I pull the door frame into the scene, you'll see that it's a very, very large thing and got the wrong word. No, it's just huge. So I'm just going to scale this down to a value I like, about 0.2 seems about right. And again, don't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to line that up because we're going to build on top of this later. So the door frame, I'm now going to make a child of our lever on the lever plate. Remember, that's the bit that doesn't move. That's this plate here on the left hand side. So the door frame is now a child of that, and what I'm going to make a child of the lever stick will be the actual door itself. So I'm just going to drag that in, give that the same scale of 0.2 across all axes, and we're now going to move that into position. Firstly, I'm going to make that a child of the lever stick, and we're going to reset its position to 0, 0, 0. That will put it in the correct place relative to the lever stick. So if I move the lever stick, the door will move, but obviously that's the wrong rotation. So I can now move that down a little bit and then just make it as perfect as I want it to be. So fiddling with these angles until we're happy with it, and that looks about right. Because the door is a child of the stick and the door frame is a child of the plate, if I move the stick, it should open the door. Don't worry about it not being perfectly aligned. That's little details we can fiddle with
in a second. As always, we test, we never trust. If we walk over to the door and I grab the door handle, you can see that as we move the lever, the door follows, and that works pretty well. So to sort out this ugly gap that we've got, that's just a case of moving the door further to the right.
So if I grab the door and just move it slightly to the right, you can see that as long as the scales are okay, that will hide that ugly gap. Now all we need to do is to grab the lever plate and turn the mesh renderer off to make that invisible, and to grab the lever stick and to make that invisible, and we're halfway there. But still, we don't want to be able to grab the lever stick. We want to be able to grab the door or possibly an area of it. So what I'm going to do here as well is also I'm just going to turn off the capture collider, turn off everything. What I'm going to do instead, thinking the best way to set this up. Now I am going to turn that capture collider off. What I'm going to do, if I go back to the parent, which is the lever, we can change the handle. So if I grabbed the handle and instead dragged the door into the handle, I'm thinking, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Don't do that. That's what I want to do. Don't do that. Basically, all I really wanted to do is to change the collider. So don't change the handle. We're going to leave that as it is. What we are instead going to do is drag the door on the word collider. And as long as there is a collision surface on the door, which there isn't at the minute, so I'm going to add a box collider to the door. Go back to the lever and drag the door into the collider slot, so it knows that is the thing we're going to be able to grab. At the minute, the entire door should be grabbable
rather than the invisible handle that used to be there. And that should open and close. So if I grab the entire door, you can see that that works. And that feels okay, but it's strange that we can grab up there. Maybe we just want to be able to grab this bar here. To do that is really simple.
If I grabbed the door and right-clicked on it and created a 3D object cube as a child, you can position this wherever you wanted the door handle to be. And we will in a moment turn off the mesh renderer, just like we did before, to make that invisible. But before we do, if I go back to the parent object, which is the lever, I don't want the door to be the collider anymore. I now want the cube to be the collider. Remember, collider here means thing we're going to interact with in order to get the lever, the door, to work. Now I've done that, I can just turn the mesh renderer off of the cube, and this should, in theory, do what we need it to do.
I'm going to walk around the back of the door. We have an invisible handle, which is here. We can see the haptics are coming into effect, and I can grab the handle and it should open and close. So there you go. You can use that effect. That may be nicer. There are still some quirks with it. You'll notice that as long as you've got a collider on it, there we go, let's move the door. You can't walk through it. You should still be able to poke your head through it, which is not always a behaviour that you want. If you grab it and have it roughly the right angle and let go, obviously it will snap. That may not be a behaviour that you like. And if the player is standing in the way, that can give you some undesirable behaviours as well. So if I stand here and let go, you know, it's not pushing me out of the way or doing anything that perhaps you may have wanted it to.
So there's a little bonus video for you for how to get nice dynamic doors working in a way that makes full use of the XR features. Thank you all.